Welcome to the First Crack Preview. Round 21, 4 to go. Tomorrow night, Thursday night footy on Fox, Western Bulldogs and the Giants from 6:30. As I welcome in David King and Leigh Montagna. Welcome, gentlemen.
Hello, mate.
Benjamin.
G'day, David. G'day, Leigh.
Let's go through the ins and outs. So the Doggies unchanged. Leigh comes in, Thomas and Ralston, and we know the three big outs for the Giants. So record as it stands right now is heavily in favour of...
The Bulldogs.
Bulldogs.
Yep.
So no change, and as we mentioned, three big outs there in Green, Kelly and Buckley. So we've got a cracker to kick off round 21.
Best two words in footy, no change. And it's this time of year when we start talking about, you look at those injuries there, you know, we're not going to start seeing players until you're taking a gamble. You know, are you bringing them back just prior to the bye? Probably not. Pre-finals, so you take the extra time. We're going to see them for the first time in a month, week one of the finals potentially. Got to qualify still, some of these teams, but they're big outs, aren't they? They give the Dogs a big chance.
Yeah, I think it's a big blow, and we'll get into it. We're going to dissect the three big games of this weekend, Dave, because I reckon that's the way we want to go. It's going to shape the eight, who makes it, who makes top four, so we'll take a deep dive.
David King, first crack time, and you've got the Giants and why they will win tomorrow night.
Yeah, I'm just going to pose some statistical reasons and show some vision. Joey's going to do the complete opposite for the other team. So we're going head-to-head tonight, so you pick your...
You're the judge.
You're the judge.
I'm the judge.
Because basically you've done no work for this at all, and we've done it all. But if you have a look at how the Giants are tracking, and they've got a very balanced profile at the moment. So the last 6 to 7 weeks of footy, top four for converting possession into a score. So they got their damage back. That was a problem earlier in the year. They didn't really seem to play with any flow, and it's good to see that third quarter last week changes everything. I think everyone's view has changed on the Giants in a short space of time, and they've always been good at denying the opposition getting it on the scoreboard. And I guess you then start to dig a bit deeper and look into what sort of assets that they can actually dominate you at. And it takes me inside the forward 50 because their forward half, I think, is the greatest threat coming up against the Dogs in particular, but against the competition, really. And I know we'll get to Toby not being there at the moment, but if you look at the numbers, if you can win contests forward of the ball, you generally score. You're generally having a shot, and that's why the best players play in the forward half, because they just cold beat you. If you look at rounds 10 to 14, they were minus 37, and since then they're plus 9. To be plus in this stat is a huge number because you're generally outnumbered. So 15th to 3rd is a huge shift, and you're looking at some of the names. And we talk a lot about Jake Stringer, but there are other players that win it for them in the forward 50. But we're going to be treated on Thursday night because the top four contested ball winners in the forward 50, Norton, King, of the Ben variety, Sam Darcy and Jake Stringer. So they're the guys that win their own ball. Stringer's actually the third highest rated player in the competition in the last 6 weeks. So they're doing it, and we'll get to the domino effect, if you like, of Toby not being there. Is that Stringer's doing it against the fourth-rated defender more often than not. Because most have got two that are really good. Some have got a third that's, top line. Not many have got a fourth. So Toby not being there really hurts them, I think Joey, when you look at... and that's probably a bit of a worry for me because you don't get to expose Bustlinger or Williams or Lobb or O'Donnell. That fourth guy you don't get to take to the deep water as regularly as what they have in the last few weeks. So that's going to give the Dogs a bit of a sniff. And I think the greatest worry, if you're Adam Kingsley going into this game, is that the midfield of the Dogs have bashed them in the past and really got hold of them at clearance. And it's two versus the crew. Callaghan and Green. And they're doing it in different ways. Finn Callaghan's all damaged. You can see there in the last 6 or 7 weeks, top four in the competition with damage from ball use. And Green just cold beat you. He's happy to engage in the fight. But we laughed about it upstairs. It's the gorilla versus the 100 men. He's going to have to fight them all off himself. Bontempelli, Liver, Richards. They're going to keep coming.
Fraser, Sanders.
So that's the case for the Giants. What do you got?
Well, if you take a look at the Western Bulldogs and how they can win this game, I actually think it's a pretty simple blueprint because if you just take a look at just some cold numbers, over the course of the season, we know the Western Bulldogs are the best clearance differential team. And what that means is they are by far the best inside 50 differential team. And we know for the Giants it's been an issue all year. They're not a great clearance team despite Tom Green's dominance. We know they're a little bit thin in there, especially against the Dogs. And we know they play a lot of their game from the back half. We've spoken about it all season. Compared to the other top 8 teams, they do a lot of defending inside their D50. So it means the game's going to be be played in the Western Bulldogs forward half. So this is the challenge. The Giants, we know if they can get through and they get the tsunami, they're the best scoring team out of the back half in the competition. We've seen it. We know what it looks like. That is their strength. But they also give you a look the other way from your back half. The opposition can turn the ball over against the Giants because they are so aggressive and they do spend a lot of time there. So that's where the game for me is going to be won or lost. And the average scoring from forward half turnovers is about 4 goals a game. When the Western Bulldogs have done that this year, they've won 11 of their 13 games. When they haven't been able to turn the ball over in their forward half and score, they've lost all 5. So when you take a look at why they can do it against the Giants, because I think they have figured out that you can get really aggressive with your press and get after the Giants. So the last 3 times they've met, this was earlier in the season in round 7, Giants won, the Bulldogs won by 32 points. They scored 39 points from forward half turnovers. And I'll show some vision in a minute of what it looks like. But again, last season they did it twice. Yep. So they've had 3 wins by an average of 5 goals. And they've been able to turn the ball over in their forward half. And that was the one earlier last season. They kicked 4 goals 9 from forward half turnovers. So it could have been an even bigger score. So the challenge for the Giants is, can they get through this swarm of the Western Bulldogs? Because we know their midfielders love to get inside 50. But in this game, Kingy, you look at like the Bulldogs, these are their half-backs. Bramble is a half-back coming all the way up with Darcy Jones. O'Donnell coming all the way up with Cadman. So they're not going to allow the Giants to have an outnumber in their back half to start their tsunami and their chain. Look at all the Western Bulldogs numbers inside the forward 50. And there's Johannesson, the other half-backer, kicking a goal in this situation. So I think Luke Beveridge has figured out when you play against the Giants, don't allow them to roll their numbers back and start their offence. You've got to get in with them. And we know, Ed Richards and Bontempelli, they love to get forward of the ball. But if you outnumber them in this facet of the game, I think this is going to be the real challenge for the Giants. Are they good enough to work their way through it?
Yeah, it's a great point. And I guess you can talk about clearance because the Dogs crew get it in there forward half.
It's going to play in the forward half.
Stays there. So that's a challenge for both components, isn't it? The mids and green predominantly to get that done. And then some composure. Do you suggest they go a bit slower or stay aggressive?
That was my question.
Tsunami?
What do they do?
I think they have to play their way. I think they've got to get aggressive because if you can get through, they will score. That's what we know. If the Giants can get through that first layer with what you just spoke about, the firepower that the Giants have forward of the ball and the vulnerabilities of the Dogs' defence, they will score. But I think that's going to be the facet of the game that we're going to watch closely. That's
what I liked about last week is the tsunami. So they had to change something. They had to do something because Sydney had their measure. And they did a little bit different. I mean, it wasn't the traditional tsunami. Well, they got their numbers to the ball. They won it first, and then they used their numbers to work their way through. So that's going to be the battle against the Dogs.
Huge game.
Yeah, big one. Well, it's a massive game, and the next one is the Hawks and Adelaide. So it is in Adelaide Oval. I reckon I should have introduced it as Manchester United and Liverpool because the two teams in this one that you guys will break down, no one's going to score on their strengths and weaknesses.
Well, everything I'm going to present is about how good Hawthorn are defensively, and they're ranked 2 in most of those indicators. The problem is his team are ranked 1.
Crows trump them, yeah.
So it's pretty simple, isn't it? The Hawks defensively since round 15, really good at defending all components of the game. And, if I'm looking at the stats and saying, why will they win? Well, if you're hard to play against, you're in every game. Yep. I think this will go deep, this game. This will be a low-scoring game and a low-margin game at the end. It'll be who can take their opportunities or create a moment of brilliance. So second best in the comp behind the Crows at defending lost clearances and top 4 for lost ball on turnover. So really organised. And the impact of a couple of players you can't deny. Their ability to win the ball between the arcs in the true midfield is a signature of this team now. Number 1, the comp since round 15. And the 2 names that jump off the page that rank really high in this are James Sicily and Josh Battle. I think we've undersold just how good Josh Battle has been for the Hawks this year. I think he's probably, if you're looking at all the recruits from last year, I'd have him on the podium minimum, if not higher. So that's their rankings in the competition. So have a look at how they do it. They do it differently. They're both aggressive in their mindset. I mean, no one's more aggressive than Sicily, but the positioning is absolutely first class. I mean, Carlton gave him some luxuries, but you've got to be in the right spot at the right time. Then you've got to be good enough to do this. Meek does enough to protect, so team first. Battle's always turning up out the back. You've got Sicily always there. We saw his kicking come back for the first time. And this is what you can get from the Hawks. I just think their positioning is really good, Joe. That's why I think it'll be a low-scoring game. If the weather impacts at all, They might not score.
So they're much more settled, aren't they, behind the ball? Early in the year, we showed some vision. There was issues with Barris and Battle fitting in. Sicily, we know, was out of form, but they look much more balanced and settled behind there now.
Yeah, and Barris is happy to play that deeper role, and he's a big body when you need him to be. So, outnumbering between the arcs, I think this is a good signature that your team's really bought into the work rate side of the game. So, outside of clearance, just having a look at what's happening. So, second best in the comp, and we know what they're up against. But surprised me that Jack Ginnivan was second best in the comp behind Dan Curtin, actually. Curtin does it in the air. Jack does it in different ways. Just want to show some vision because it surprised me. I had to go back and have a look at how that was represented. A lot of subtleties, a lot of knock-ons, a lot of shoveling, that sort of stuff there. The contested knock-on where he puts it in the path of a teammate. He cold beats players but doesn't leave traffic. So often you don't see this. You don't see the subtle little handball or he just shovels the ball, tap on there to a teammate and then follow up. I really love what he's bringing to the game, and I think we've got to start to recognise his influence on this team. We don't talk I can't remember the last conversation we had about Jack.
No, it's a great point. Since he got dropped, he's come back into the side. He's been excellent. We always know he's had the footy smarts, his work rate's high, and he's a big part of that mix through the midfield, those smalls that are getting the work.
Well, he's had to change his game.
He has. Look, I'm having a look at the players that got in super form. There's really not a lot of players that are shooting the lights out. So the team side of it's working, and the coach should say, yeah, that's perfect, that's what I want. But they've only got one player in the top 60 rated players since round 14. It's Jack Gunston, and we've all been blown away by what he's been able to do. Watson and Sicily not too far behind. Meek not too far outside of that top 60. But the mids are a worry. Newcombe outside of top 100, Warple outside of top 100, Ward outside of top 120, 125. So they're going to have to lift. If they're any chance on the road against a great lineup in the Crows, they got to lift.
And thank God Will Day returned last week into a little bit of form for this clash on Friday night. Joey, Adelaide, they're coming into hot flag favourites, aren't they, in terms of the way they're playing?
They are, and it's because their profile is as good as any teams in the competition, if not the best. And we've spoken a lot about Adelaide. We've spoken a lot about their firepower. Kingy showed some of their back line the other week. But if you just take a look at their team defence, so basically opposition trying to move the ball. So they're second best for points against, but they are number one at stopping the opposition from moving the ball from their back half to inside 50. The intercept game, so the possession gains, they are the best in the competition at winning the ball back. And then stopping the opposition chain to score. So whenever they start with it, whether it's from a turnover, from a clearance or from a kick-in, there's no harder team to score against than the Adelaide Crows. And their numbers stack up against the best. So when you break down the top 8 v the rest, they are number one against the top 8 teams in the competition defensively. So that is a real tick. But the challenge I'm finding for the Hawks to win this game is their offensive firepower. So if you just take it across the board, they're 8th for scoring. So it's mid-table. But when you break it down, they've really scored heavily against the bottom 4 teams. They've averaged 123 points, which would put them top 4 against the bottom 4. But when you look at them against the top 8, they're averaging 68 points a game. They haven't really been able to sort of penetrate any of these teams' defences, and you're coming up against one of the best in the competition. So that's going to be a real concern for the Hawks because their ball movement, as much as it was a strength last year and we lauded it and we've highlighted it throughout the season, it hasn't been the same this year. They haven't quite had the same flow and chemistry with their ball movement from the back half as they did. So how are they going to score enough points to beat the Adelaide Crows is my big question.
And the big question, you mentioned Jack Gunston, the form he's in and he's kicking goals. Kel Shadir, Mitch Lewis, Malby Chol. Who's your two that you go with going forward in the next 4 weeks?
Yeah, I've said I'm leaving Chol out. I think I've seen enough with Kel Shadir and Mitch Lewis with Gunston. They're my 3 that I'd take into finals. Unfortunate, Chol's been good. I think those 3 are the ones I'd go with.
All right.
What do you think?
I think they're settled now.
You've settled?
Yep, I think the same.
I think same way?
Yep, I have to agree on that one. Red Rooster, crunch time. David King, we're going to take a little different look at streaks and top 8 teams, so the best against the best.
I challenge the boys at Champion Data today to just give us an answer on if you do have to win 4 finals in a row to win the flag and actually be in form, beating top 8 teams on the way in. How many can you put together? What's a reasonable amount of back-to-back wins or consecutive wins against the best, against top 8 teams? And I was surprised at the numbers that come back. And there's only been 4 teams for the last 3.5 years, or 3.5 years, that have been able to put more than 5, so 6 or 7 wins in a row against top 8 teams. That surprised me because it just shows you how hard it is. Most teams go around 50-50. Even the good teams,
Yep.
50-50. So it's hard to put them back-to-back. So you can just see in 2022, round 11 to prelim was the Swans. Round 12 to grand final was Geelong. Brisbane, round 2 to round 15, playing against those top teams in 2023 was 6. So you would think, you know, looking at the ladder, looking at the table, how hard it is to jump these teams. It's going to be tough for anyone that finishes 6,
Outside
7,
top
8
4, yeah.
to get on a run and win it. No one's talking about winning it right now. It's about qualifying. But it just shows you how hard it is over the last 3 to 4 years.
I was just looking at the streaks at the moment. So Giants 6.
6 in a row against top 8.
But they wouldn't be against top 8.
No.
Oh,
But coming into this,
Yeah.
now we're looking at it right. So they've got the Doggies,
Yeah.
and then the
So
Hawks have
everyone's
got 3
beating-
of the top 8 coming up as well.
So everyone's beating those other teams, so it sort of can skew the numbers a little bit. So it is interesting. I looked at who's beaten the top.
You're going to have to be red hot, aren't you,
Yeah.
to win 6 games in a row from here? So a couple of home and away games against top 8,
And then you've gotta
3
go.
or 4 finals. You're going to have to be red hot.
So Freo are 5-2 against top 8 teams.
Yeah,
so they've got the best record against the best. So let's see if it stacks up.
And the Doggies 1-8.
The Doggies are in real strife, 1-8.
Are in real strife. Let's check in with Bernie Vince from PointsBet with his first crack for the weekend.
Thanks, guys. My first crack is my top 4 here at PointsBet. We've allowed you to come up with your top 4 in exact order, and I've done just that. Here it is there. Adelaide, Collingwood, Geelong and the Gold Coast I've got slipping in. You might ask me why I've gone Adelaide over Collingwood. Well, I think it comes down to that round 23 match in Adelaide. And I've got Adelaide beating the Pies. That's why they're on top. I've got Gold Coast slipping in. That make-up game against Essendon at the end of the year becomes a really important one. And I've got Brisbane dropping out. This is why they play Fremantle in Perth. I've got Fremantle beating them there. And this weekend, v the Pies is a big match too. I've got the Pies beating them. So that's my top 4. You can make up your top 4 exclusively here at PointsBet. You can find those odds plus a whole heap more on the PointsBet app. Have a great week.
Chances are you're about to lose. For free and confidential support, call the number on the screen or visit the website.
Tomorrow night, Thursday night footy on Fox, the Western Bulldogs and the Giants from 6:30 Eastern Standard Time. The Doggies, last time they met was round 7, 32 points. The Giants looking for 7 in a row. The Doggies win. They keep their finals hopes alive. They lose and they could be out. That's why it's such an interesting round 21. And Saturday night football, Collingwood and the Brisbane Lions from the MCG, Leigh, Montagna. Have a look at Collingwood and why they win.
Yeah, this might be the best of them. This game on Saturday night, Collingwood-Brisbane, we know they've played in some big games in recent years, but when you think about the Pies, it still comes back to me for their defence. It is as tough a defence as any. We just spoke about Adelaide and Hawthorn, but this team have built their game this year off the back of what they do, particularly inside their defensive 50. They've got 4 of the top 30 defensive intercept marks in the competition. When you think about Darcy Moore, Jeremy Howe, we expect to come back into the side, I think is massive for them defensively. Darcy Cameron, we know he gets back, and Billy Frampton as well. So they are tough to score against the Pies. We know that. And Brisbane aren't going that well with their ability to score inside 50. Over the course of the season, they rank 11th with their efficiency. They're 17th in the comp for winning their offensive one-on-ones. You know, we know the Tools are just a little bit of a concern for them in their forward 50. And here's what Collingwood have done to Brisbane. So they've beaten them the last 3 times. In fact, 4 times if you include the grand final. But the last 3 since the grand final, they've been able to restrict Brisbane's ability to score. So, again, this is going to be a big factor for the Brisbane Lions. Are they able to find a way to get through the strangle that Collingwood provide, the way they play and set the field and with what they've got behind the ball? And, of course, the other big challenge when you play against Collingwood, there's a man named Nick Daicos, who, seriously, he's in some sort of form. And he feasts against the Brisbane Lions. His last 5 against them, he's averaging 32 points, 32 disposals a game, over 1 goal a game, almost 10 score involvements. And his last 3, so in round 6 in this game, Dicko, he's going to get the 3 Brownlow votes. He was the best player on the ground. The 2 times he met last year, he polled the 3 and the 2 Brownlow votes. So the question is, to Brisbane, can they go with him? Do they tag him?
Dunkley?
Do they let him run free? Can Dunkley try? But what is interesting, King, is the last couple of weeks, Nick Daicos has spent a little bit of time at half-back.
Yes.
Just to free him up a little bit. I don't know whether it's to preserve his body,
Been a bit sore.
whether it's just to maybe get a bit more punch from half-back with the Pies. But what I love is when he gets more uncontested possessions, he looks as a better player. I know there's been a lot of talk. We know he can win the inside ball. He doesn't need to prove any of that anymore. But I think he's at his best when he's getting uncontested possessions. Brisbane allowed him to get a lot of that early in the year. If he does that again, look out.
Yeah.
So with his uncontested possessions, what about his scoreboard impact? Kingy?
His kicking, we marvel at his kicking. His kicking's elite in the uncontested game. They suffer when he's the one hacking out of stoppages. And I think that's why the coaches assess that. So have a look at this. Since round 14, number one player in the comp for scoring volumes. He's played a game less than the guys around him. But having a look at the percentage of scores for the team, he's involved in 40% of their scoring. Now, I think this is simple. Stop Nick, stop them, because they're relying so much on him. Now, doing that and getting that done is a whole other task, right? But I think a team tag can come into effect with these sorts of guys. I really do. I don't think one player necessarily running with him gets the job done, but any time he goes past, put a body check on. Anytime he's getting away from his direct matchup,
Whoever's closest,
a roll, a cover, some assist, constant body checking. I think they've got no other option but to do that. So that's my number one. I think Brisbane's biggest challenge that they pose to Collingwood is their ability to score from that winner's wedge, that half-back flank area, that
Zorked.
Yes, the Zork area. And it's because they're the best team in the competition at scoring from there for the season. I think this is undervalued. This is the sneakiest stat in the world. We know it's a success indicator. The team that's always ranked one at being able to convert these sorts of counter-punch opportunities always wins the flag. And this mob are stacked in that fashion. I love how they move it. It's not just Zorko. So we've highlighted how quickly Zorko makes a decision and is prepared to pull the trigger to the most dangerous kicks, basically because they back their back six if that's turned over to get the job done on a fast turnover. And it creates scores. So they're not in great form offensively, Joey, I agree. So maybe they have to take these risks. Maybe this is how they need to play. Look at how quick they make a decision. Dogs are getting organised, boom, it's gone.
Yep.
So you can't snooze. You can't be disorganised. We know Collingwood are the most organised team in the comp defensively, but I'm looking at McCluggage getting involved. I think there's a young man there in Fletcher that we don't talk enough about. This guy is trending towards the elite bracket of the competition. Have a look at that. They're all learning the speed that they want to go at. We're out. Look at that, there's 5v3 in the middle there. You've got to keep the ball moving forward. This is what they'll try and do. Hit that. They'll be aggressive enough to take on the Collingwood press or their grid, if you like. They'll have a go at that.
Yep.
If Collingwood are good enough to turn it over, they'll score and score heavily. But if they can hit that first one, it does open up out the back and create speed.
And it brings the overlap of Bailey and Wilmot and
All
these
those
blokes
guys.
to run past.
Absolutely. And so when I'm looking in the forward 50, and you're right, they have struggled to replace Joe, let's be honest. It's been a whole host of different players that have tried to do it. Morris was very good for a patch, but may have come off a fraction. The one guy since round 14 that's been targeted, of all the guys that have been targeted 11 times or more, Cam Rayner is the one that jumps off the page.
Yeah.
They go to him. He does it himself personally. He just cold beats you, whether it's in the air or on the deck or even on the lead. And if he doesn't mark it, he brings it to ground in a really soft drop fashion. He's so strong in the air.
He's powerful.
Exactly. And when it does come to ground, you get the opportunity. So I think he's the wild card that really could get them going.
Do you want to see him deeper? Play a bit closer to goal? Because he does come high, but that used to be Charlie Cameron's role. Do you think he should maybe play more out of the goal square?
I think he takes your vision. I mean, you remember the key
0 to
forwards,
30.
the key forwards you play with, Dicko, that when you look up, you just see, look at that, you just see them coming at you. You've got no other option but to go on. What do you think?
I agree. I think it's always been Charlie Cameron, hasn't it, that's been the deepest. He's not in the same form. I'd get Charlie Cameron up and high, and I would utilise Rayner a bit more. I think that's a good look.
And I like it because when you bring it to ground inside 30, he's going to score because he's quick to recover and get to his feet.
Can't knock him off his feet.
I made the fatal mistake. I did the Q clash last week and asked about the Zorked.
Oh, did you?
I said with Fags, I said the licence, and he reeled off about 4 other guys that have got the same licence.
He knows.
Well, that's how potent
how
they are. They just want to go and take it on.
I'm tagging Zorko if I'm your mob, though. I'm putting some time into him. I'm not letting him... I'm not getting zorked that way.
We don't want to be zorked because we'll play it on next week's show. We'll see how many blokes got zorked at this game. Leigh, David, outstanding work to break down those 3 terrific games that are going to be across the weekend. But it all kicks off tomorrow night, a Thursday, under the lid, Western Bulldogs and the Giants from 6:30 on Fox Footy.